What is up everyone, Mark here. Welcome back to my channel, welcome if you're new. Today I'm going to be doing a full concert review for Eurovision 2024. Of course, I have seen the show in person, so this will be about my experience being in Malmö at Eurovision this year, and some of the pros and cons of my experience. I will also be including footage I took during my time there. Before we begin, please be sure to like and subscribe, and comment your thoughts on this year of ESC. With that said, let us begin with my first pro, which is the artists. This year gave us so many amazing artists who all brought their best to Eurovision, and also gave us a lot of great funny moments throughout the show. There are so many examples of this. You have Bambie Thug, Sylvester Belt, Nemo, Joost Klein, Dons from Latvia. So many artists that were giving us a lot of funny TikToks and moments and everything like that. And what I like the most is that a lot of these artists became friends. I think one of the most dynamic friend groups we saw was, of course, Nemo, Sylvester Belt, and Bambie Thug. These three seemed to be great friends and gave us a lot of funny content because of that. There was, of course, the Authentics Part 2 of Sylvester Belt and Nemo, and of course, Bambie Thug giving Nemo the crown of thorns after their win, and so many little moments and things like that I really appreciated, and that made this such a fun year. This, of course, was a year with a lot of drama and a lot of tension, and seeing all these artists come together and be nice to each other and be happy and friendly was amazing. I also want to give a shout out to Dons, who was super friendly. He was like the big nice guy of this year, being friends with all the different artists, hugging everybody, and of course, how could we forget Joost Klein, the man himself, who has given us so many great funny moments that just made all of us happy and helped us forget about the drama and all the crazy stuff going on in Eurovision this year. So really appreciated that. I think the artists this year really brought so much energy, so much life and charisma and joy, both on and off the stage. I think without them and without their energy, this year would not have been as exciting as it was, and a lot of the negative parts of this year probably would have taken center stage, which is not what we want in Eurovision. So that is my first pro. I also want to mention I was able to meet a lot of these artists in person. I met Teodora, I met Angelina Mongo, I met Baby Lasagna, of course. I got to actually talk to and take pictures with a lot of these amazing artists. I was obviously just a fan showing up, but they were super friendly and super welcoming and had great energy with the fans. Luna, as a matter of fact, I ran into her on the street, so it wasn't even like a meet or greet or anything. And she was super friendly. We took a picture, we talked a bit. Everyone was very open to talking to fans, interacting, and that really meant a lot to me. Even Teodora, I just met randomly. She was leaving a fan event, and I was like, oh my god, Teodora, like, how are you, whatever. And she was very nice, and we took a picture and everything. So a lot of them were really friendly and approachable, and just were not like, go away, I have stuff to do. They were actually making time for us. Like, I can only imagine how stressful it is to be in their shoes and to have all these people wanting to take photos and everything, but they were, again, so friendly, so receptive, and just made this a great experience. Such great artists we've gotten that made this such a fun competition, despite, again, all the craziness going on. Speaking of that craziness and everything, let's jump into my first con, which is the tension. This obviously was a very intense year of Eurovision for a lot of reasons, but actually being in Malmö, being there in person, you could really feel the tension in the air. It was actually a little bit freaky to me when I actually first got to Malmö, because I remember my first day there, or rather my second day there, I went to Eurovision Village, which was the big, Eurovision place where everyone hangs out, and they have a lot of performances and everything. And the first thing I noticed was there was so much security. Now that's a good thing because we all need to be safe, of course, but I've never seen so much security in my life, and I was just a bit intimidated at first. I was like, oh my goodness, this is my first impression of being in Malmö. I remember going through 2 checkpoints, security checkpoints, before actually going into the village. I came in being all excited and happy, and I kind of was in there and I was like, okay, like this is great to be here, but I feel a little bit nervous, I feel a little bit anxious, just because there's so many guards everywhere and it was like a lot to handle. On almost every roof I saw, there was a person watching us. When you're trying to just enjoy your vacation like I was and relax, it was a bit difficult to relax because I felt like something could happen at any time, and it was just a bit of a tense environment just because of that. And that's only a small part of what was causing the tension in Malmö. There was also that tension of having you-know-who in the contest, and you-know-who being a country that is in Eurovision that a lot of people did not want in Eurovision, and that was a big part of the reason for this amount of security. And I remember being in the arena for semifinal 2 and being afraid of what's going to happen when you-know-who shows up on stage. Obviously, a lot of us have some very strong opinions on this topic, on you-know-who. You also had a lot of protests going on, so that really added a lot to this feeling of tension and just having to be very aware of your surroundings and where you are and what's going on, because you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know whose side someone else is on. You don't want to offend someone by saying something, so it's just very tense, especially making friends and having conversations about these topics. One of the friends I made there, I was talking to him about this on the train, and we were like really quiet about it because there's people on the train and we don't want to offend anyone by saying the wrong thing or starting a big fight on the train. This is a very sensitive topic that we're talking about, and a lot of people have strong emotions about it. Of course, when we saw you-know-who on stage, I was actually really nervous because I was like, is there going to be a big fight breaking out? Are people going to like flip out? And obviously there was a lot of booing and a lot of, yelling and a lot of whatever. Thankfully, no one was fighting or anything. A lot of people just turned their backs or just, shouted some slogans. Like no one was actually hurting anyone, which was great. But before that, I felt a lot of fear going into semifinal 2, being in line for the semifinal thinking, oh my god, what's going to happen when I'm in there? What's going to happen when this song comes on? And I don't like having that feeling when I'm going to a concert, when I'm trying to enjoy myself, when I'm with my friends. Like, I just want to relax and enjoy the experience, not think about, oh no, what's going to happen? Am I going to be hurt? Am I going to be injured? Even though I loved being at Eurovision and enjoying that experience, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, and this tension was a big part of that. So with that, on a lighter note, let's move on to my second pro of the ESC experience this year, which was the hosts. As you might know, of course, we got Petra back for the first time since 2016, and we love Petra. Petra is amazing. She is so funny, her comedic timing is on point, and she's so professional too. You know, there was a lot of booing and shouting throughout Eurovision, especially after Joost Klein was disqualified, and so Petra was able to handle that very gracefully. Obviously, it wasn't her fault, and I respected her for being so composed throughout this entire chaotic experience, and just making people smile and be happy and forget about the awful things that were going on behind the scenes. I also loved her musical number, which was We Love Eurovision Too Much, which was really fun to watch, and she's also just great. She still got the same energy she had all the way back in 2013 and 2016, and again, she just made everyone smile and be happy. And there's also this video I took here where she's actually talking to fans in the front row, which is really nice, and just, you know, clapping along with us during the sing-along in semifinal 2. She was also talking to us at a couple points, and she was so sweet, like just engaging with the fans and being nice and friendly and everything. Like, it was honestly really appreciated because this was such a tense year. So again, Petra, we love her, she's amazing. Now, the other host, Malin, she was okay, but for me, she wasn't that memorable. She didn't really have any great moments or one-liners that just stuck with me. It's not that she's bad, she just did not make much of an impression for me, which is fine. She's still great, she still was a great co-host for Petra, but overall, the hosts were great. They did a great job, both of them together, making this a really fun and enjoyable experience. I think one of my favorite moments with the hosts was the tattoo cover where they were in the tanning beds. I thought that was so funny, and it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, that is so iconic, so great, I love that. So stuff like that I loved. They had a great sense of humor, and really were some of the highlights of this year. So with that, let's move on to my second con for this year, which was essentially how the drama was handled. So as you know, this year had a lot of drama in it, a lot of things that fans were not happy about. Of course, one of the biggest ones was the disqualification of Joost Klein, and this one was a big shock to me. And I remember being in Malmö in Eurovision Village. I was actually about to watch a Kadia concert that was there, and one of my friends was on his phone, he was on Twitter, and he was like, oh, apparently Joost Klein will not be performing in the evening preview tonight. And that's the show that I was going to. So I was like, wait a minute, what happened? Why isn't Joost going to be at the preview that I paid for to see him at? And we didn't know, we had no idea. It said that EBU just didn't give out a statement or anything. There was really no information that we had at the time. We knew that he was at the flag parade at least, but no one had seen him since. So that obviously sparked a ton of rumors because no one came out and said, oh, this is what happened. This is why Joost is under investigation. A bunch of rumors started spreading around, and I understand that there are legal things going on and you can't just be saying everyone's business as soon as it happens. I get that there has to be an official press release, but the fact that there was not a lot of transparency around this led to so many rumors being spread, and I mean all kinds of rumors, crazy rumors. Even when we were actually at the evening preview, right? When we actually had a guy come out and tell us that Joost was not going to be there, we still had no idea. So we had this horrible idea of what happened with Joost and with the different delegations in our minds that made everyone so angry and so passionate that ended up not even being true. So we were getting riled up over nothing, all because we didn't have any transparency. And that obviously led to even louder booing when it was announced that he was, again, not going to be performing that night. As a matter of fact, there was someone in the audience that night with me who was furious that Joost was not there. I have not seen someone that mad at a concert in a while now, probably ever. So that was really unfortunate to see because, you know, he paid money to be there to see Joost and not even being given a reason why Joost was not there. And of course, it was not even until the next day that it was announced that Joost was disqualified. And even by that point, we still really had no idea what exactly had happened. Obviously, now we know for the most part, but back then it was still kind of a mystery and everyone was making up all these rumors and just adding to the toxicity of this year in Eurovision, adding to the drama, adding to the craziness and the tension that we were all feeling already. May the 10th was a crazy day for ESC fans, as you all know, as we all know. Of course, other things like you know who being in the contest, the lack of transparency around that was pretty freaky, and that led to, of course, a boycott of ESC. And I feel like the people running the contest just didn't really address that. I wish they had said something about the boycotts or tried to at least appease angry fans, but there really didn't seem to be any effort to do that. On the business side, you have to be really careful about public relations, about PR, about the statements you put out. But from the fan perspective, a lot of us felt that there was no clear communication about anything and that everything that was going on in Eurovision this year was just a mystery to us, especially, of course, the disqualification, even the security, and how they're going to be dealing with the presence of you-know-who. I just wish, bottom line, that there was more transparency in this process because as a fan, it felt that there really wasn't. So let's raise the mood a little bit and talk about my next pro, which is the amazing interval acts. I really wasn't sure who would be the interval acts for this year. I think they were announced pretty late, honestly, which was a good thing and a bad thing because on one hand, you didn't really know who was going to be performing, but on the other hand, it was a bit of a surprise when they did perform, when they did show up. And I tried not to look at the set list or the running order or anything just to be surprised when I'm actually at the show. So I really was pleasantly surprised when I got to see a lot of my favorite acts, especially semifinal 1, which opened with Eleni Ferreira of all people. Of course, the one who sang Fuego all the way back in 2018, who is now such an icon that every song similar to hers is seen as a Fuego copy. So that was really amazing. I actually had a friend who was a big fan of her, and I invited him to come to Eurovision with me, and he was like, no, I don't want to go. And who's the first person who shows up at semifinal 1? Eleni Ferreira. So that was unfortunate for him, but it was so great to see her. And of course, Chanel as well. I honestly never thought I would see either of them live ever. And speaking of, I never thought I would see Kadia live either. I had no idea he was going to be in semifinal 2, so when he showed up, I lost my mind. I was really happy to see him. Not sure why he was in that particular semifinal, but it was great that he showed up at all because he's one of the most popular acts and one of the most charismatic ones as well. So I would say right now my 3 favorites were, of course, Eleni Ferreira, Chanel, and Kadia, just because I love those artists and I've been following them for a long time. However, I was also very impressed by some of the other acts, like Benjamin Ingrosso from 2018, who did a fantastic job. Actually, I think his interval act was so good, I kind of think he deserved to be in the grand final, honestly. I really only knew him from Dance You Off in 2018, so I really had no idea how famous he was in Sweden or how much music he'd produced since then, but he was phenomenal. You know, if he ever wanted to come back to Eurovision, he could probably win. One of the other ones I really liked, which caught me off guard, was actually the guy from Hooked on a Feeling. I had no idea he was Swedish, and I also did not even know he was going to show up to Eurovision, so that was a very pleasant surprise. I love that song, so that was awesome to see him there. I almost forgot to mention Johnny Logan, the 2-time winner from the 1980s, showed up as well in semifinal 1 to give a cover of Euphoria. I was ready to sing my heart out to Hold Me Now, but that's okay. Euphoria is good too. I just thought it was really funny how he did a cover of Loreen, and when Loreen showed up, I thought she was going to sing Euphoria, and she didn't sing Euphoria, so I was like, what is going on here? So actually, on that note, speaking of Loreen, her performance was very good too, but I did feel it was a bit strange as an interval act in the grand final. I felt like there was so much hype being built up and so much energy in the crowd, but then her performance was a lot more melancholy and slow, which was good. It was amazing, and she has some amazing ab strength too. I don't know how she is hitting those notes while laying down and basically doing crunches. Like, that's amazing, but it wasn't a performance that would get you super hyped up like Benjamin Ingrosso's performance or like the Kadia performance from Semi 2, but it worked. It was good. I enjoyed it, watching it both in person, of course, and also on TV. And I did hear they were actually going to have more acts, or at least different acts, but of course, some of them withdrew because of the boycott. I also want to give a shout out to the sing-along, the karaoke part in semifinal 2. A lot of older Eurovision artists showed up for that. And of course, the cover of Waterloo featuring Conchita Wurst, which was her first and only appearance in ESC this year. Boycott or no, a lot of really great interval acts, and they made this such a memorable year for me as someone who loves a lot of these artists. So that is a huge pro of this year. With that, let us move on to my next con, which is actually kind of related, and that is the lack of ABBA. Where was ABBA? I understand that ABBA did not choose to show up this year, which is fine. It's obviously their decision, and I don't blame them for it. However, this is the 50th anniversary year of ABBA's win in 1974, so I thought they would go big at least with the ABBA stuff. I thought there would be a lot more references to it, a lot more callbacks. We did have a bit of a little slideshow during the grand final featuring ABBA, which was nice, and of course the cover of Waterloo with Conchita, which was good. I just wish they had a bit more ABBA stuff because that's kind of what I was looking forward to this year, and as someone who has parents who love ABBA, like, that would have been a big deal to them also. So it was just a bit disappointing that there wasn't that much ABBA stuff. Not a huge con, but just a little thing that I noticed where I'm like, it's the 50th anniversary. You might as well go all out with the ABBA stuff. That's what I would have done. I would have gone all out with ABBA. I would have had ABBA here, ABBA there, just because, again, this is such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is the 50th anniversary of ABBA's win, where Eurovision is hosted where else but Sweden. Do I think there were some missed opportunities here and there? Yes. But do I understand ABBA's decision? Also yes. So not a huge con, just something I wanted to throw out there. So with that, we will now move on to my next pro, which is the production value. If nothing else, one of the biggest things I really enjoyed about this year's Eurovision is how great the production value was. And this was everything from the LEDs, to the camera work, to the stage, to the lighting, to the special effects. Say what you will about Sweden hosting. It's okay, I voted for Kadia too. They know how to host ESC. They've done it 3 times in the last 11 years, and it shows. There was no broken sun, there was no broken anything with the stage. It really was all fully functional, really great, and really exciting and fun to see in person. person. I was actually a bit skeptical when I saw these stage for the first time, mostly because it was designed to give a 360 experience, but I liked that they were doing something new and different and challenging these artists to make the most of this unique type of stage. I also liked how we had the audience all around the stage. It made for some really cool viewing angles depending where you were standing. You also had those little cubes, of course, that were able to make some performances a little bit more intimate, like Portugal, for instance, having lower cubes, and also the different lights. We had a bunch of square lights on top that were able to actually tilt. So this really was a very dynamic and interesting stage to look at and watch, and just being there, being in the arena was just so exciting to see. I mean, the stage was huge, by the way, and I'm really glad they just took a bit of a risk with this concept. The other thing I want to talk about, of course, is the camera work. I think one of the big things about this year that really elevated a lot of performances was the camera work. And of course, one of the biggest places where that was evident was Ireland. Ireland had some of the best camera work in this entire show, and I love how they took advantage of so many close-ups. And also this shot here I really like. A lot of the acts this year actually used this camera angle, which was directly above the stage and made for some really impressive moments. One other example of camera work I want to highlight is France. Slovenia had some really great camera work this year. We had, of course, the camera guy going all around him, and again, really utilizing those close-ups. I think some acts where they had a bit of a wider view of the entire stage might have been hurt by that, only because the stage is a bit empty at times, especially if there's not much going on stage. It can look a bit empty, especially for some of the ballads that we had this year. So in a lot of cases, like France, for example, the camera crew utilized close-ups and really unique angles to elevate this performance and make it more powerful than it otherwise would be. So I really love the production here. Again, amazing. Of course, things like LEDs and pyro and everything was on point. Of course, you also had great sound mixing, although there was one instance of bad sound mixing I saw when I was watching it in the arena. This was Lorene's performance during the grand final, and in that performance, her vocals were a lot quieter than the music, so it's actually really hard to hear what she was even singing. However, that was the evening preview, so during the actual live show, they obviously fixed that, and it was much better. So not everything was perfect, but they did a really good job regardless with its production value, and I really enjoyed watching it both in the arena and on TV because of that. So with that, let's move on to my next pro, which is Eurovision Village. This one is not related to the concert itself as much as it is the in-person experience of attending Eurovision, because what they did for us was they had a park in Malmö that was converted into this thing called Eurovision Village, which is where we had artists show up, do concerts, hang out with us, sing songs. We had a couple local artists showing up. We also had a choir doing covers of ABBA, like little things like that that were just really cute and nice and helped build at least some sort of community in Malmö, despite all the drama and the high security and the craziness and the tension that was in the air. A lot of the artists showed up from this year. I got to see Yolanda and Gata days before the semifinals because they were at Eurovision Village, and I was there the first day it opened and got to see them live early. So that was really awesome. And also, of course, Kadia was there, and that's where I saw the big Kadia concert where he did a bunch of his songs and also brought Windows 95 Man to the stage to perform No Rules. And I really had a great experience with that concert. I had so much fun. Kadia is amazing. He honestly could be a stand-up comedian if he wanted to, because he was very funny. Like, he was talking to the fans in between songs, making everybody laugh and just being very charming and casual and just super friendly. So we love Kadia, he's amazing, and it was so cool to see him live twice during this trip. So really loved that, and Eurovision Village again just made this feel more of a community than just a show that I was going to. Of course, I also was doing things like going to the Emporia Mall, where we had the Wee Wee Vlogs meet and greets, which was really cool. And also I did go to Euroclub every now and then. Euroclub is just for fan club members, specifically members of OGAE, so the vibe there was a bit different. Honestly, I felt it was a bit more exclusive feeling, which was not necessarily a bad thing, but just for me, it was a bit off-putting. Still a cool experience though. Obviously at Euroclub, I got to meet a lot of artists face to face and, actually have conversations with them. And a lot of them were really cool people to meet in person. Artists not just from this year, but previous years as well. So there was a lot that I got out of this experience beyond just the shows. And that's what makes going to Eurovision so great and such a unique experience for anyone who is interested in music and different cultures and really engaging with the Eurovision community. So this has really been my list of pros and cons for my experience. So this brings me to my final thoughts. And I will say, overall, Eurovision was very fun. I was able to meet a lot of great people there, made so many friends, met so many artists there, got to experience Malmö and also Copenhagen, two great cities that I really enjoyed, and got to see a lot of my favorite acts in the arena. Of course, the drama and the tension and all of that did put a bit of a damper on my excitement while I was there, but that did not spoil the entire experience. I will, however, say it did get a bit exhausting at times, just having all that security around, having to go through all those checkpoints, and also just being so nervous about what's going to happen or how safe you are. And also, of course, the drama and the buzz on on Twitter. That got a bit stressful at times too, just not knowing what to believe, what not to believe, especially of course during the whole Yost disqualification fiasco. That added a bit of stress to my vacation, but overall I would say this was a great trip. Would I go to Eurovision again? Will I go next year? Maybe. It'll be in Switzerland, which is a very expensive country, and I spent so much money in Malmö and Copenhagen. It was shocking how expensive those places were, especially Copenhagen, my goodness. So I'll think about going next year. I wouldn't say it's very likely. I think this was more of a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me, and I'm glad I did it. I really had a great time, again, made so many great friends, and had so much fun in Malmö. So for the purposes of this review, I will now rate my experience in Eurovision, my experience being in Malmö, and also what I think of the show overall. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. That's being a bit generous, of course, because there was so much stuff with the security and the tension and the stress and the drama being so ever present. And honestly, a lot of what my friends and I were talking about was that drama, which was unfortunate. However, I had a great time overall, and looking back, even with all the drama, this was an unforgettable experience and one that I will cherish for the rest of my life, really. I loved being at Eurovision, meeting all these people, and it really just meant a lot to me to be there and experience it in person. So 8 out of 10, I think, is a pretty fair rating for my overall experience and just attending my first Eurovision as well. Again, the host did a great job, the artists were amazing, the camera crew, the production, the staff, everyone, they did a great job at making this contest what it is and putting on an amazing show for us, both on TV and in the arena. So yeah, that really has been my review. If you were in Malmö this year, please let me know. I want to hear about your experience. And also, if you're just watching at home, I also want to know what that was like too. So please comment down below. Let me know what you think about this year in Eurovision. Let me know also maybe what your rating is for this year, what score you would give it out of 10. I know a lot of people would probably give it a 1 out of 10, and honestly, I get it. I really want to hear what you have to say. So with that, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you as well for 3,000 subscribers, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.